So communication is constantly evolving. There was a time when written communication was the main form of communication that people used. So that was handwriting messages and delivering them to people. So with the increase of technology, we have adapted the ways of communication. So technology will shape our lives in a bunch of different ways, and it has affected the way we communicate. For instance, everyone in this room is in the IT department at Paycom, and you have seen firsthand how we communicate in a corporate environment. We have evolved from the old method of communication. So I know this firsthand because I also work in the IT department, and I can see how technology has changed communication. So we communicate and interact in a corporate environment on a daily basis. It is an integral part of our lives at work, and it helps us to achieve success at work. So today, I'm going to tell you about the evolution of communication in a corporate environment and how this is beneficial to employees. So now that I've covered the main points that I will be discussing, I will jump into my first point, the evolution of communication at work. So as humans, we've gone through several different ways of communicating before reaching the point that we're at now. Technology has been the instigator behind this evolution of communication. The earliest method of communication was writing. We used to have to physically write to communicate, and there were major drawbacks to this method. It was limited, it was not as effective, and it wasn't time-worthy. So as our resources have increased, new inventions came into play, our methods of communication have progressed. Gone are the days of letter writing, sending faxes, and communicating in those older versions. Now the fastest and sometimes easiest way to communicate is to send a Skype message, an IM, or to video conference. This also applies to people in a corporation. As a Forbes staff writer, Chris Canfielozzi, stated, organizations evolve their ways of working to drive innovation speed to a market. So it's easier to embrace this type of technology to make communication easier for us in the workplace. We do this by Skyping here at work to communicate internally throughout the company. We will use GoToMeeting to communicate with vendors and people outside, and we use email on a daily basis to communicate with anybody and everybody. So, now that I have covered how technology has changed the way we communicate, I'm going to move on to why this is beneficial to employees. Digital communication can be extremely beneficial to everyone, especially people in a corporate environment. It makes communication easier, which in turn makes our lives easier. Collaboration is a big part of any corporate environment. Throughout the day, there's several different people that we have to communicate with, and in order to do that, it's easiest to use technology to do so. It has made us easy, and it's given us more options. A writer from Broadsauce said, employees prefer to communicate in different ways, such as voice, text, and video. There's different ways for us to communicate around the office. We use Skype messages, emails, text messages, phone calls, and video conferencings. It's easier to get in contact with people quickly. Another benefit of these new methods of communication is the benefit from working from home. Employees can now work from home on their laptops instead of going into the office. They have the same method of communication that they would have here in the office. They can Skype to go into meetings. They can email people to let them know updates. It's the same as if they were in the office. So, according to Forbes, 79% of people work in virtual teams. It's becoming a more accepted way of communicating with people while you're at home. So employees can still attend the necessary meetings and still do their job, but from the comfort of their home. To sum things up, the way we communicate has evolved with the help of technology. How we communicate has changed for the better, and it has brought convenience to the lives of workers and organizations. I'm sure you in the audience understand how much easier it is to communicate with people when you can just send a Skype or an IM instead of walking around the company looking for a certain person. The evolution of communication is in thanks to the increase of technology at our disposal. It's constantly changing and evolving, and so is the way that we are communicating. We can use these two together to help strengthen the communication inside a company.